Russia has vetoed a UN Security Council resolution condemning Moscow's illegal annexations of 4 Ukrainian regions. The vote in the 15-member body was 10-4 and 1 against, with China, India, Brazil and Gabon abstaining. The resolution also called for an immediate halt to Moscow's invasion and demanded the unconditional withdrawal of Russian forces. Western allies were quick to respond to Moscow's land grab with yet more sanctions against Russian individuals and companies, while the White House National Security Advisor said another delivery of weapons to Ukraine is coming soon. President Joe Biden said the US and NATO would not be intimidated by Vladimir Putin.
America and its allies are not going, let me emphasize this, are not going to be intimidated, by Putin and his reckless words and threats. He's not going to scare us, and he doesn't, or intimidate us. Putin's actions are a sign he's struggling. The sham routine that he put on this morning, showing the unity and, as people holding hands together. Well, the United States is never going to recognize this. And quite frankly, the world's not going to recognize it either. America is fully prepared with our NATO allies to defend every single inch of NATO territory. Every single inch. So, Mr. Putin, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Every inch.
The international reaction follows a series of hastily arranged votes last week that have been widely condemned a sham. The land grab marks an escalation in Russia's war against Ukraine, and Vladimir Putin says he will use all means to defend the territories.
It's portrayed as a big domestic win for Russia, as Vladimir Putin joins hands with separatist leaders and officially annexes 4 regions of Ukraine. The hall chants Russia in celebration. In the ceremony of fanfare and pomp, Putin has a clear message for his opponents.
I want Kyiv and their real masters in the West to hear me, so that everyone remembers this. People living in Luhansk, Donetsk, Kherson and Zaporizhia are becoming our citizens forever.
The celebration is in stark contrast to this reality. Dozens of people killed and wounded in what Ukraine says were missile strikes on a civilian convoy in Zaporizhia, one of the annexed regions. Defiant Ukraine says it is asking NATO for quick accession.
Only the path of strengthening Ukraine and ousting the occupiers from our entire territory will restore peace. We will follow this path to the end.
Russia's annexation announcement has been widely condemned.
It's designed as a step to intensify the nuclear threat against the rest of the world. The European Union unequivocally rejects and condemns these illegal annexations.
There is disappointment among Ukrainians too.
This is a terrorist way of violently taking away territories that have been formed and attached to Ukraine a very long time ago. My reaction to this is sharply negative.
I think what is happening is lawless. There is no other way to put it. What's most scary and unclear is what will be next. We have no idea how this will end. That is sad.
While in Russia, Putin is surrounded by allies celebrating the move. Internationally, he's bound to face isolation.
Well, DW has been unable to report from Moscow since our bureau there was closed down following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So we turn to journalist Pyotr Kozlov, joining us from Riga for more. Good morning to you. Putin's speech announcing the annexation was an anti-Western diatribe. What do you make of his rhetoric, and what does it tell you about his aims?
The initial idea of Vladimir Putin to take Kyiv in a few days and the plan B to take the eastern part of Ukraine in a few weeks didn't work. So today, after the very essential defeats in the western Ukraine, in Kharkiv region and in the bordering districts with Russia, Vladimir Putin needs to show to the Russians that he has some victories and he wants to show this pride. So he's trying to tell Russians that he has secured the people in the eastern Ukraine, and he was always telling from the Ukrainian Nazis. And to the West, Vladimir Putin is trying to show that using the mobilization, the annexation, and the nuclear blackmailing, he wants to tell that he's transmitting the signal of possible military and possible nuclear threat very serious.
Yeah. And so if Russia's his audience, how have ordinary Russians reacted? Do they believe Putin that the West wants to destroy Russia?
This was the main idea of Vladimir Putin returning back to power to Kremlin in 2012, and he was using all the time all these discourses in Russian state propaganda. So there was an unofficial contract between Vladimir Putin and Russians. It meant that the people they get security and they get some rights in an extent, and they do not intervene into politics. But today, when they don't have security anymore and there is even the threats of possible nuclear collision, today the Russians feel a confusion. And as the latest opinion polls show, that the support of Vladimir Putin and the trust into the government institution is going down, and the support of the war is also going down.
Quickly before we go, you talk about the Russian people and how they feel. What about the political elite? Do you think they feel that they can still influence Putin? Quickly.
The political elites, they were feeling themselves self-assured. They were thinking that they are integrated into taking the decisions. But today, when all the decisions, they are being a huge surprise and stress to the political elites, they feel the confusion and they also feel the threats. So they don't know what to do. And this is the main feeling today.
Pyotr Kozlov, thanks so much. Well, I'm joined now by Mike Martin, a former British Army officer and a War Studies Fellow at King's College in London. Good to have you with us, Mike. I wonder what are the military implications of Putin declaring these regions part of Russia?
I think the short answer is there aren't very many military implications. At the same time as these annexations were announced, the Ukrainian forces were actually surrounding a town with about 3,000 Russian soldiers in it called Lyman, and that's going to possibly be another repeat of what we saw a couple of weeks ago when the Russian front collapsed. I think the main audience for this annexation is the Russian domestic one. The war has been going very badly for Putin, and I think this offers something that he can show to the public and say, look at the progress that we're making.
Just on that audience factor, Ukraine has the momentum, but what we hear, they're taking that ground, yes, but they are also, is it not true that they are taking a very heavy human cost as they move forward?
Yes, that's absolutely true. So right from the beginning of the war, the Ukrainians have been very secretive about their casualty numbers. So we actually have no accurate ideas of what their casualties are. You are right, they have been significant, and also the civilian costs as well. So not only Ukrainian civilians caught in the crossfire, but as Ukraine takes back territory, they're uncovering, as we saw in Izum last week, they're uncovering mass graves. So this is coming at great cost to Ukraine, but from their point of view, they're recovering their own territory from an invading force.
Mike, Putin has made veiled threats that he would use nuclear weapons to defend these new regions. How seriously do you take that threat?
I don't take it very seriously. Since the very beginning of the war, Putin about 4 or 5 times has either explicitly or speaking in riddles has mentioned nuclear weapons, the most powerful weapons, Russia has this extraordinary force, all that kind of stuff. And each time we haven't seen them used. And I think Putin is losing this war, and to use nuclear weapons would be an escalation that would mean that they would lose it even quicker. So I don't see Russia is going to use nuclear weapons in the Ukraine conflict.
Mike Martin, great to get your thoughts from the War Studies Fellow at King's College London. Thanks so much.
Thank you.